Communicate concerns and ideas up the ladder, specifically to older supervisors, and do it in a way that doesn't make that older person defensive. This is a legitimate question. BBC.com article I've got in my hands here explores this idea. Unlike generations that came before them, millennials and Gen Z, both of these generations are markedly different than my generation, Gen X, and the boomers above me. In that, they are very values-based in their approach, their perspective to work. We've just seen this in the data. Simply put, what you had was the baby boomers, which is my parents' generation. They're in their 70s and older, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Work for them was, I went and did this job, and I did everything I could to hold on to that job for as long as possible until I could start tapping the pension, right? The retirement, Social Security. Work was just a utilitarian function. I work to live. That was largely the perception of work by the boomers, and certainly that trickled down to my generation, Gen X. What we saw with the millennials as they came into the workforce, and now for the last half decade, they've been the largest demographic in the workforce. So now there are more millennials working than any other generation, and we're seeing an explosion of retirement by the boomers. So what millennials brought to the table was they experienced 9/11. It was a major, major, major event in their upbringing, and it had a lot of effects on their psyche towards life is precious. It could end quickly. And I care more about what I do with my time. I want to work for a company that aligns with my values. So it was a much more intimate, values-based approach to work. All right, that's what we saw with the millennials. That has certainly been carried on by Gen Z. And Gen Z's taken it a step further. You have a large percentage, and the data escapes me right now. I don't have it on the top of my mind, but there is a large percentage, let's call it a healthy percentage of Gen Z who are saying, I want to come right out of high school and start my own business. They are very entrepreneurial. And I believe there's two reasons why Gen Z is so entrepreneurial. And they're going, I want to start my own business. I want to work for myself, either right away or one day. And I think there's two reasons. For all of the griping and moaning that we parents, I'm raising my hand here, we're wringing our hands, oh, the kid's on their phone all the time. You know, and I'm sure there's going to be a whole host of negative effects, and I'm not in any way saying there's not negative effects to that. I don't like my kids being on their phone for hours at a time, and I fight with them all the time. I get it. But these kids are, I think, exponentially more creative than previous generations because of the adoption of technology that they have from day one. You know, video apps, video games. I mean, it's just a function of context. I had Stretch Armstrong. That was the big toy. Hey, man, grab this arm. I'm going to grab the other arm. Okay, you run that direction, I'll run that direction, and see if we can snap his arms off. I'm not knocking Stretch Armstrong. I'm just saying there is a creative context to why these kids are more creative than previous generations. So creativity is one. Two is they are very in tune with their opinion and their values. They really are. And they think it should be in alignment in every area of their life. Previous generations were like, well, I don't like what the CEO said, or I don't like this position, but you know, it's a good job. They don't do that. Now, all right, so those are your two things. They are very creative and they're very values-based. And so they're leaning towards, hey, I want to create an environment where I work for myself and it has this, 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 and this. They're very, very customized based on their values. All right, context. Well, because millennials and Gen Z are so values-driven, they're more opinionated. It just stands to reason. They want to tell you what they think. And this is a real challenge for those of us that are Gen Xers and boomers. This young kid walks in and within 2 weeks, they got all these ideas. And you want to go, hey, listen, young grasshopper, pipe down. Be seen, not heard, right? It's very normal. Sometimes that's good advice, but it should not be a default mode for us that are older. So I want to dive into this. Many times I talk to leaders about this, and I'll say, you've got to be open-minded to the creativity, to the freshness, to the unlimited possibility thinking that comes with youth. Doesn't matter the generation. I mean, every young person, they kind of just, they don't know what they don't know. And that's a very attractive mindset. But I actually want to talk to young people right now. If you are a Gen Z or millennial and you want to speak up more, but you are feeling as though you're getting tisk, you're kind of being shoved aside. Hey, pipe down. I don't want to hear it. You got to earn it. You got to pay your dues. This is what you're getting. You're getting resistance. I want to give you 2 specific things that you can do to grow your influence. Because I believe that younger workers can speak up to older managers and not be met with defensiveness and insecurity. But it's all on you, young people, and that's what sucks. You cannot change your leader, but you can win your leader. So here we go. First, as a young person, you want to share your opinion. You want a seat at the table, and good for you. I just want you to earn it. And I don't mean by paying your dues and being quiet. I mean with these techniques. First, ask questions. Stop making statements. Start answering questions. You're a young person in the boardroom or whatever, the meeting, and you got all these older lions or lionesses or whatever, and you're feeling, hey, listen, instead of sharing your opinion, form it in a question. You're sitting there and you go, I think this is risky. Instead of saying, hey, I think this is risky because you haven't earned credibility yet. So you know what you need to do? You need to ask that in the form of a question. Does anyone see any possible risk with that? Big difference. So if I'm asking questions, I am promoting my idea. I am having a voice, but instead of making a statement that immediately almost requires a response, I'm asking a question which allows that person, that older leader, to process what you've given them, and then they get to choose what they do with it. That's the first technique. The second technique is build relationship. You have a lot of ideas, a lot of energy, young person, that's great. But you know what? Your ideas and your energy is going to be a whole lot more palatable for that older leader if you just kind of win them personally. Ask them questions about them. Hey, flip it. I tell leaders all the time, ask the 2 questions every day, every week. How are you doing personally? How can I help you win? Do the same thing with the older leader. Hey, how are you doing personally? How can I help serve you? Hey, I'd like your advice on this. Win them over personally. It'll give you leverage to share your opinion professionally. Ask questions, build relationships. You'll get the platform.